what is energy? Energy is the ability to do work. Think about fire. That was taking wood and converting it to heat. So I had an energy source in wood. What I really wanted was heat. But that's all the transfer of work. That's all the ability to do work. And so, yeah, when we look at a problem, we have this whole new dimension of options because we know how to do work. I want to go through the tunnel. I want to fly the airplane higher.
Yeah.
I want to get from, point A to point B faster. I want my TV to be bigger. All these types of things always come back to the same thing, which is what work is needed to do that.
Welcome to Lightbulb Moments, a video podcast series brought to you by Mitsubishi Power. We're bringing you the brightest minds, most engaging stories, and illuminating points of view from across the energy sector. I'm your host, Erin Bordelon. Today, we have with us Dr. Vijay Swarup. He's the Senior Director of Climate Science and Technology for ExxonMobil. Vijay, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. So to get us started today, let us get to know you a little bit. Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and what put you on this journey into the energy sector.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the invitation to speak about something as important as energy. I've been with ExxonMobil since 1987. So I've been around a long time, out of graduate school into work. I've done various things for Exxon. I started in research. I went into business rotations, went into planning jobs. I led our R&D group for about 10 years, which is where I really got immersed in the energy transition and the types of technologies that are going to be needed and how the technology and policy interface works. And then a couple of years ago, I was invited to join our strategic planning group at our corporate offices, again, thinking more about how this transition is evolving and the role of technology and policy in the interface and how we need to think about it, how we need to talk about it, how we need to navigate our way through arguably one of the biggest challenges society has faced.
Yes, and you've said before, I've read a couple of things you've put out and watched some of your talks, that this is an intensely collaborative area and that therein lies the challenge, right? And if you go to college to be an English teacher, you get an English degree, be an architect, there's paths for that. But for energy.
Yeah. I mean, look, there are a couple of things about energy that just, to me, make it one of the most fascinating things ever. And over my career, I've just learned to marvel and appreciate at the magnitude of this industry and the complexity of this industry. And yet it's an industry just largely taken for granted because when you flipped your light switch, you didn't hope.
Yeah.
When you got in your car, you didn't wonder. All this around us, this entire podcast, everything here is underpinned by the very thing that you really can't see, you really can't touch.
Yeah.
And yet it's everywhere. And so one of the things that we try to explain are two dimensions of scale. One is just the sheer magnitude of energy. Whether you're counting in exajoules or quadrillions of BTUs or whatever, the numbers are so big.
And they sound made up.
And they're made up.
Yeah.
And they're almost like, okay, that's a lot.
Right.
But, on a slide, it's just a y-axis. Okay.
Yeah.
But the other complexity is what you talked about, which I think is an equally important one, which is the integration of so many disciplines. It is every discipline of engineering. It is every discipline of science, chemistry, math, physics. It includes social science. It includes economics. It includes everything. And so there is no other challenge out there that involves integration at scale. I'll tell you, that just constantly has fascinated me. And I've had the good fortune of getting to see this challenge from different dimensions, but they all come back to that same thing. It is an incredibly complex problem. That's why these discussions are so important, because we have to figure out how to break a complex problem down into sub-problems so that you can actually go attack the problem and start working towards solutions, which is, I think, what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to solve this problem.
Right.
It's a question of how do we work together, which is yet another form of collaboration. but we really need to bring everybody together to try to solve this problem.
So you've mentioned that the scale of collaboration that needs to happen and the level of integration that needs to happen is tremendous. And it's very different from where it was 100, 150 years ago, right? And we see this particularly in the regulatory landscape and, justice initiatives coming more into the realm, right? And so now not only do you need the engineers, the physicists, now you also need the social sciences. You need the sociologists, the anthropologists, right? These people with cultural sensitivities to inform people on maybe how best to proceed for long-term success in this industry. And I think that's really interesting.
Right. So let's just come back to a couple of basics here. So energy is the ability to do work. So if you want to do more work, you need more energy. Energy also underpins quality of life.
Yes.
There's a pure correlation, absolute correlation between quality of life and energy, sometimes measured by GDP and energy. And so I think everybody agrees that the quality of life we have in the developed nations is what everybody aspires to. Mm-hmm. So I always like to start with areas where people tend to agree. And I think everybody agrees with that. And you start going down that path, which says, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, how do you do it? How do you take the technologies, how do you take the things that we have here and move them to the areas that don't have it?
Yeah.
And that's where the social science, that's where all these other things come back. But to me, it's just a really simple concept, which is you want to lift everyone. Mm-hmm. And how do you lift everyone? It's through sharing. It's through collaboration. And my particular angle, of course, is technology. What are the technologies that are applicable to be able to transfer and accelerate the quality of life in the developing nations?
So we'll take a step back then just a second. So there's no go get a degree in energy. So what are your degrees in? What's your educational background and how did you get here?
So my degrees, I have undergraduate degrees in chemistry and chemical engineering and a PhD in chemical engineering.
Okay.
And I started with Exxon back, like I said, back in 1987, before it was ExxonMobil. So I started with the Heritage Exxon group. And I started in a division that was really looking at polymers. But the thing about our company is it covers everything.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to join the research organization, which covered everything. And so I was able to be exposed to all sorts of different elements of what our corporation does. And quite frankly, it's gone in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard for me to believe that it's been that many years. But the reality is it all comes back to the same thing, which is we're a technology company, we're a problem-solving company, and we're a company that does things at scale. Mm-hmm. And so wherever I've been, whether it's been in a research job, whether it's been in a manufacturing job, whether it's been in a commercial job, it always comes back to those elements. We're trying to solve a problem. It could be a problem in a manufacturing site. It could be a problem that a customer has. It could be a problem a government has. We're trying to solve a problem. We're trying to do it at a scale that is a really big scale. And that scale now, we're going to talk about scale in terms of capital deployed. Mm-hmm. So billions of dollars of projects, multi-billion-dollar projects that bring the magnitude, the size that people want. And it's always going to be underpinned. Every dimension I just talked about is always going to be underpinned by some form of technology. Mm-hmm. And I've always chased that. I've always tried to understand, well, what is the technology that underpins this problem?
Yeah.
Like why don't we have something? Why can't we make more? Why can't we go faster? Those things should always be able to be reduced to some sort of an equation, some sort of a system boundary where you're trying to understand what you're doing. And the more you can distill it down to a technical question that actually can be solved, one, you take a lot of the disagreement out because it's just math.
Right.
So the more we can bring this down to just math and physics and the pure science, and then you take that pure science and then you go to scale, well, that's the engineering. So if you can bring the science and engineering together, I think you have a much higher probability of solving some of these really, really complex problems. All the other elements, they're going to have to come in, the policies, the social science, all that stuff. But I think the root of this, which is often misunderstood, is the technical depth and the technical skills that are needed to actually address the challenges we have.
And so, said succinctly, you've said that technology is the path to scale.
Yes.
And policy is the path to market.
Yes.
And those two things have to come together.
Right.
But it's hard, this taking something like energy, right, as nebulous as that, it's a bit like looking at the Grand Canyon, right? You're standing there and you can tell it's massive, but you can't in that moment discreetly understand the size and scope of it.
Right.
So, like you're saying, well, what do? You compartmentalize it.
Exactly.
You put it in terms you can understand, into units you can understand, and then you scale it up and you translate.
I mean, that's what engineers do.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You asked about me a little bit, and, I think it starts with you want to be a problem solver. Mm-hmm. Part of being a problem solver is you have to have sort of an insatiable curiosity. You have to keep asking why. And with the why, the better question, the why gives you the understanding, the why not gives you the challenge. Again, if you can merge the whys and the why nots, because you just can't start with the why not.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand the why. So you get the why, that's the fundamentals. Then you kind of start saying why not, and you start working your way. And quite frankly, the things we're doing today were all why nots back when I started. The scale of energy, the types of things we're doing today, whether it's plastics, whether it's LNG, whether it's the things we're doing in the hydrogen space, in the carbon capture space, the electric vehicles, the lithium, none of that was really on the radar. Now the whys were all there. Physics hasn't changed. Thermodynamics hasn't changed. Okay. But the why nots, why can't you have the energy at the scales that we have it today? Why can't you make a refinery bigger? Why can't you make a chemical facility bigger? Why can't you make plastic thinner? Why can't you recycle plastic? Why can't you do hydrogen at scale? Why can't you get better ways to make lithium? These are all the why nots. The whys are how do you make plastic? How do you do these types of things? And so I think it's a different form of an and equation. It's why and why not. And the more we continue to work both, you continue to challenge yourself. That's the other thing that always fascinated me is this concept of infinity.
Yeah.
There's always one more.
Yeah.
There's always one more. It doesn't matter how high a number you can count to. Somebody can add one.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we're ever done. And I think that's the constant challenge that our company has had for the whole 140 years, but certainly for my time. I don't think we're ever satisfied. I think it starts at the very top of our house with our chairman, who's constantly challenging. And then you bring it down through the organization. And I've had the good fortune of leading several organizations, and it's always bringing it down to, okay, what are we trying to achieve? What's the game plan? How do we get there? And always, in my world, always underpinned by some deep technical. What is the technology? What is the science that's underpinning what we're trying to achieve?
And so part of that evolution for your organization, you had said before, some compartmentalization is good for the mathematics and understanding the problem. But because this is such a collaborative point of view, right? Don't let companies and organizations compartmentalize themselves, right? But do you have a strong identity? What are you good at?
Right.
And you've described ExxonMobil as being, we're molecule managers.
Right, exactly.
So can you talk about that point of view a little bit?
So there's a couple of thoughts there, right? So there's two things that are needed. You need to collect dots and you need to connect dots. And some people are really good at a certain dot. Let them be that. Okay. Other people can actually connect all the dots and have the vision. Okay. The key to whether you're a dot collector, a dot connector, what dots you're collecting, et cetera, is, do you know what you're good at? And so we're a capability-based organization. Our capabilities honed over decades, because I learned from, I stand on the shoulders of my predecessors who stood on the shoulders of theirs. Yeah. And so that knowledge transfer, I remember being a young engineer and had the fortune of having some senior level scientists teach me. Yeah. Because they had tried things. So I'd go in with an idea and they said, well, hey, we kind of tried that. That didn't work. And I said, okay, well, did you try that? That's the why not. That knowledge transfer is critical. And so we have 140 years of knowledge transfer around molecule management, around taking molecules out of the ground, moving them safely, converting them safely, right? So it's energy source gets turned into an energy carrier. That's what you want. You want the electricity. You don't necessarily want the gas or the thing that's giving you that, right? But we do, because we need to understand how to take that one molecule and transform it into the molecule that you want. And so over 140 years, we have really excelled. And in fact, we are the originators of a lot of the innovation that you see today that's taken for granted. But it all comes back to the same core capabilities around extraction, understanding the underground, conversion, separation, transportation. Those things are what we excel at. And so whether it was separating oil into kerosene to light lamps, that moved on to taking oil out of the ground to convert it into fuel. Okay. So to taking natural gas, to liquefying it, to move it around the world, to today taking the CO2 molecule and capturing it so you can sequester it, it's all about understanding the molecule, understanding how to manipulate that molecule to what we want. And then it's the core capabilities or extraction, conversion, separation.
So I think, one of the central challenges for us is that knowledge transfer can be an exponential growth.
Right.
But then you can only move as fast as you can move. Right. So the technology and like kind of those whys,
right,
those are largely unchangeable, and they are going to move at the pace that they are going to change. But you can move knowledge much quicker, and it can escalate much faster.
So I'll be a little bit of a science geek here for a minute, right? So thermodynamics are thermodynamics.
Right. Okay.
The laws of thermo are not going to change. Kinetics changes. Kinetics is how fast you do something.
Okay.
Okay. So the horse became the car.
Okay.
The goal was still going from point A to point B.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. The abacus became the calculator.
Okay.
The abacus allowed you to do math. The slide rule, which, I'm old enough to remember using a slide rule. I mean, that thing was magic to me. Yeah. How do you take this thing? And now I'm able to do all sorts of calculations and logarithms and everything. And then later on, the calculator comes out. And it's like, wow, now I can do even more. And so the computers that we have today, the supercomputers we have today, can do things again.
Yeah.
Back 40 years ago, not even within the realm of imagination. And on the horizon, we can see quantum computing,
right,
which is another game-changing technology. And so the thing about man, the thing about our species is we're just an innovative species.
Yeah.
And so what we've really done over time is to challenge the why nots is really to me, it's more about kinetics. And so how do you get more efficient? How do you get faster? How do you do those types of things? And I think that's what we need to do as we think about the energy transition. How do we get on the roadmap, recognizing that we're going to get faster and bigger as we go, but you got to take that first step.
Man as a species is very innovative, and that's our winning component, right?
Winning component.
But the key to that is communication and collaboration.
Yes.
So if you have a mountain, right, an animal is walking a path, sees the mountain. Most animals are going to be like, well, okay. And they either go over it or they go around it. A human walks into a mountain and says, all right. And then they go get 10 other people and they bore a tunnel.
Right.
And then everyone else can just walk through it.
Exactly.
And I think in a lot of ways, that's what we're always just trying to do.
Right.
Is there's the problem. Let's go figure it out together and get through it together.
And so why is that? Because we know how to use energy.
Yeah.
It goes back to what is energy? Energy is the ability to do work. Okay. And so we're able to understand that. Think about fire, which man kind of came up with.
Yeah.
And what was that? That was taking wood and converting it to heat. So I had an energy source in wood. What I really wanted was heat.
Yeah.
Why did we want heat? We wanted heat for two reasons. One, you wanted to be warm. The other, it allowed you to cook. The third is it was actually a weapon because you had fire. But that's all the transfer of work. That's all the ability to do work. And so, when we look at a problem, we have this whole new dimension of options because we know how to do work. Yeah. And so now I want to go through the tunnel. I want to fly the airplane higher. Yeah. I want to get from, point A to point B faster. I want my wrap around my food to be thinner. I want my TV to be bigger. All these types of things always come back to the same thing, which is what work is needed to do that.
So you've talked about the importance of having a strong and correct and easy to understand problem statement.
Right.
And that part of our issue right now is that, not the solution side of things.
Right.
We've got a full menu. We've got a ton of solutions. The problem is that we've not all aligned on a clean, discrete problem statement, the why, the why not, that off of which we can all move forward together. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think you hit on something really important. And again, let's go back to engineering disciplines, because the one thing you learn as an engineer is to define the problem. So you get the problem.
That's step one.
That's step one, read the problem. Step two is reread the problem. Step three is write the problem down. Step four is draw a picture of the problem. And step five is write down all the things you know about the problem. So you're 5 steps in before you even start to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So I always go back to what is the problem? Because if you agree on the problem, you have a much higher probability of getting the answer. Look, for the energy transition, I think the problem statement's pretty simple. We need more energy and we need to lower emissions.
Yep.
Both. Both. Not one, not the other, both. And that's the challenge. Do we have ways to increase energy? Yes, we've been demonstrating that over the last 40 years. In fact, like I said, the amount of energy we have today was unimaginable 40 years ago, but we have that. Do we have pathways to lower emissions? Getting there, right? We have ways to do it. We need to bring those two together. And I think the more we align on that problem statement, again, the higher the probability, you can then look for capabilities. You can decide what you're good at. Like, we're a molecule company. There are other folks that are electron companies. That's okay. We need electrons. We need molecules. We need everything. Physicists are fine. Chemists are fine, right?
Yeah.
History majors are fine. We need everything.
Yeah.
The thing is, know what you're good at. How do you integrate all this together? And as long as you have the same problem statement, right? Everybody's looking up and seeing the same problem statement, then you know you're moving towards the thing that you're trying to move towards.
Yeah.
And look, there's going to be side steps, and there's going to be all this. We always come back and say, okay, am I moving closer towards solving the problem? And it comes back to the other thing we talked about. As you're doing that, you're going to realize you're missing something. Well, then go get it.
Yeah. I didn't account for this.
I forgot about this.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, success is paved by failure.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have that persistence to say, no, this is a big enough problem to solve that I can't shy away. When you're in research, which I spent a lot of my career in, you fail
most of the time.
A lot more than you succeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Success is a byproduct of
success is the byproduct of failure. And so, but failure is a really bad way to say learning. As long as you're learning through the failure, you're moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's why, scientists take notes and write everything down so we can go back and actually model the failures. Helps you understand where you need to focus on to get to success. So again, what you said is right. We got to get the problem statement right. We got to get everybody agreeing on that problem statement, and then bring in their capabilities to the table so that we can integrate across those capabilities.
So can you expand a little bit on where we're at with some of these capabilities? So, carbon capture, hydrogen, lithium batteries, long-term storage.
Let's talk about it in the context of the and equation, because we talk about the and equation, saying we need to do what we're doing today, continue to deliver energy at the scales we're doing today, which has had 140 years of developing these technologies.
Yeah.
So they've gone down what we call a learning curve. They've gone down what we call an experience curve. They've scaled up. They've scaled out. They've done all those things. Keep going.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're now doing expansions of the order of magnitude of 250,000 barrels a day, 300,000 barrel a days in our refineries. Those were pretty close to world scale refineries 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they're expansions. So you have this head start, 140 years of experience on this side. Here comes the new value chains. They're nascent. So the and equation is not equal. And means you need to be working on both. You think about it as a relay race. The guy finishing the first leg of the relay race is running at top speed. He's had that baton for 95 meters. He's got 5 meters left. He's not slowing down. He's running at full speed. The other guy is just beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. So the baton has to transfer. There's a time when both are holding the baton. That's the transition.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, these other value chains will take over. That's what we've seen over the period of time in energy, as we've gone through the various forms of energy, going from wood, biomass, to wood, to coal, to oil, to gas, to et cetera. And so we just have to make sure that as we're going through this transition, we understand that the established value chains are at a scale and a cost that took a long time to get to. The emerging are still at a smaller scale and a higher cost. This comes back to one of the things we talked about, which is this is the technology policy interface.
Yeah.
The technologies you want to really look at are technologies that can scale. The policies you want to look at are policies that can kind of give a kickstart to technology, but ultimately markets have to take over.
Right.
And the more that collaboration occurs between the technology and policy, again, you're just increasing your odds that you're working on the right things and you're moving in the right direction, again, towards the same problem statement: more energy and lower emissions.
Yeah. So talking about quality of life across the globe, there's more people than ever.
Right.
Bigger wealth disparity than ever. And along with that, you've already said that energy and quality of life, there's a direct correlation there. And energy really is, I think there's that joke in the Big Bang Theory that it's just science is just magic with numbers, right? And for quite a bit of the population of Earth, these things that we take for granted would be magical
Right.
to them. So how do we, one, do you have any numbers on what percentage that is? And how do we close that gap a little bit?
So we have 8 billion or so people on the planet. A billion really don't have access to energy. About 2 billion are what we would say exposed to pretty harsh conditions, right? So about a quarter of the population is not where we want them to be. So the numbers are large.
Yeah.
But the solution set is also large. And so it's just a question of how do you get the right solutions to the right place? It's a different form of collaboration. People talk about leapfrogging. How do you leapfrog in energy? Well, the way you leapfrog almost anywhere is you do a technology transfer. So again, the car that you drive today, the way the grid is operated today, et cetera, okay?
Yep.
It took us a long time to get there. The developing nations don't need to go through that learning curve. They can start with where we are. That's a way to try to close that gap more expeditiously. I mean, again, the one that's talked a lot about today is LNG, right? Moving gas is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And we came up with the technology. Do you liquefy the gas? You actually don't move it as a gas, you move it as a liquid. It's LNG, that the L is liquid.
Yeah.
So that is a huge game changer. And if we have an abundance of natural gas, then moving that natural gas to where you need energy, okay, is a marked difference versus burning biomass or coal. So most of the developing nations are going right now through a biomass coal combination, but they actually could jump to natural gas because we have enough and we know how to move it there. Now, what do you need? You need the permitting, you need the infrastructure, you need all those other things to happen. But it starts with what's the problem and how do we get them on that road towards more energy, lower emissions, so they can go faster. So you start with natural gas and you say, okay, well, now I got to still take care of my emissions. Well, I can do CCS on natural gas. So now we got natural gas plus CCS. Well, that's pretty good. That's energy at scale with pretty low emissions because you've captured the CO2. And it's that type of thinking. It's that type of problem solving mentality, which is, okay, we got the problem. Let's look at the ways to get there. That's where we need to move the conversation.
So one point that I hear over and over is that, as a counter to that, is, okay, well, yes, if we're focused on emissions and if the United States went net zero tomorrow, you'd still have 76%, of the problem. So how do you respond to that? Is there a logical fallacy in there to you? And how do you see it?
Well, I like to connect the yeses, not the no's.
Yeah.
And so does everybody need to go towards lowering emissions and while maintaining the same quality of life? Yes. Are different countries positioned in different ways to go there? Yes. So I think it's not so good to compare one country to another, because the thing about CO2, unlike other issues that we've had to face as a society, is it actually is equilibrium.
Right.
Okay. So everybody's working together. Okay. And so I think countries that have the technology and the policy and the capability to move should move. Countries that are still trying to get there should get there. And that type of collaboration is what's needed. I personally don't really like questions that kind of isolate or say you should be. No, we should all be doing this. We should all be working towards our capabilities. We should really try to go towards the same direction. I don't think we should all go at the same speed. I think we should go at the speed of technology. And so if the technology's there, and the other component, there's three things that have to come together. You have technology, you have policy, but the third leg that is often forgotten is infrastructure.
Yeah.
And often infrastructure is actually the rate limiting step. And infrastructure can be permits, infrastructure can be pipelines, infrastructure can be the grid, et cetera. So I think it's not so good to say, I want you to go at this speed and I want you to go at that speed. I think it is good that we're all moving towards the same thing. And you're going at the speed that allows you to do in your geography, in your policy construct, in your technology construct. And my opinion is, technologies can transfer. So we really need to be thinking about how do we get the technologies to move from one area to the other, because that's how you're going to get this thing to scale faster.
And like you've said, you've been in the industry a long time.
A long time.
So, 1987.
It's a long time.
Have there been any, or was there a significant, light bulb moment that you had throughout the course of your career? Or have there been a couple of moments that you look back on and say, wow, that was something.
Well, I tell you what, I look back and have a whole lot of that with somethings because like I said, if you'd give me a piece of paper in 1987 and said, okay, describe energy in 2025, I would not have done very well on that exam.
Yeah.
And so I think once it's done, it's obvious.
Right.
Okay. There's nothing that you can know that can't be known, right? It's just, how do you get there?
Yeah.
And so the things we're doing today, which now seem obvious, were certainly not obvious 40 years ago. And so I'm not going to sit here and say that I can imagine what 40 years from now is going to be.
Right.
I think we had a set of problems that we're out there to solve, a set of challenges that needed to be solved. Mm-hmm. And our company played a role in solving those challenges. And I'd like to think that the research that our company did and some of the teams that I was on had some role to play. I think it's incredibly immodest to me to say that I had a major role, but I look back at my career and I look at the commercializations we've done, the research that we've done, that we're beginning to see come through our pipeline today, whether it's carbon capture, whether it's hydrogen, those things all start in research.
Yeah.
It starts with an idea.
Yeah, you have to have
an idea that has to be proven.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that we keep looking at as a company is, can you scale? Mm-hmm. There are other companies that are very good at small scale. That's good. Mm-hmm. Okay. We know what we're good at. We're good at complicated projects, high capital intensity, reliable operations. So we do things really big, really well. Mm-hmm. And that's a really, really important piece of this equation. Because if you don't have folks that can do things really big, really well, you're never going to get to the numbers that we talked about that nobody understands.
Right.
And it's okay that nobody understands it. What is more okay is that they understand that we understand it.
Yeah.
And as long as they know that we got it and we know how to do it and we're working on it, which comes back to one of the things that we've talked about over and over again here, which is to lead, you have to communicate.
Yeah.
To communicate, you have to invest time.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-part problem. You want to lead, you better communicate. You want to communicate, you better invest time. That's the beauty of these types of discussions here, because we're trying to communicate. We're trying to say, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And we want to play a leadership role in the transition. So these 3 things have to go together.
Thank you so much for being here today. We're not done talking, so don't go anywhere. But we do want to pause here, and this will be continued for next time.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Lightbulb Moments. I'm going to keep the conversation with Vijay going next time. You can catch us on LinkedIn or subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure you don't miss the episode. We'll see you then.